A subscriber to the channel recently asked, why did Mike Mentzer quote so much philosophy in his writings? Every bodybuilder I've ever known simply says, do this to get big or do that to get ripped. While Mike embraced science, he also went on and on about using the mind and the importance of philosophy. Why? Let's find out. Mike was known as the thinking man's bodybuilder, the synthesis of a Herculean physique with a professorial mind. As passionate as Mike was about science, he was a pre-med student prior to becoming a professional bodybuilder, and also worked in a cardiopulmonary rehabilitation clinic as a technician. He was equally passionate about philosophy. Philosophy and science are not as disparate as one might think. Indeed, they are interrelated. Philosophy, in its original sense, referred to acquiring wisdom or knowledge. The word itself derives from the Greek and translates as love of wisdom. And wisdom, from the ancient Greek perspective, took all knowledge as its province. Mike Mentzer embraced philosophy in its original sense, as the great knowledge provider, the tool, when using logic, of clear and critical thinking. Mike was a devout student of logic, the discipline in which there are three basic laws. Without using these laws of logic, we cannot engage in meaningful conversation or approach anything, including our bodybuilding training, in a rational way. These three laws are the law of identity, the law of non-contradiction, the law of the excluded middle. The law of identity is the recognition that each and everything has an identity or nature that is exclusive to itself. As Mike said,
A is A. That's the axiomatic concept upon which that's the edifice upon which the rest of human knowledge is built. That's the first axiomatics. An apple is an apple. An apple can't be an orange. There is an objective reality out there.
More generally, the law says that A is itself and thus different from everything else. Pretty straightforward. The law of non-contradiction says that A is not non-A. In other words, a statement such as, it is raining, cannot be true and false at the same time. Yes, it can be raining in Paris, France, and not raining in Los Angeles, California at the same time. But the law states that it cannot be raining and not raining at the same time in either Paris or Los Angeles. The law of the excluded middle states that something is either A or non-A. To use our rain example, it says that a statement such as, it is raining, is either true or false. There is no alternative. These logical laws are what allow us to reason and to communicate. Indeed, to deny these laws would make the denial self-refuting. For example, to say there is no truth is itself stating a supposed truth. In other words, the statement is being offered as an exception to the statement itself.
Yeah, he's trying to negate the law of identity. And if that were true, actually, it's the fallacy of self-exclusion. You couldn't even be talking. Every single word we use has its reference in reality. And the very fact that there is an independent reality is what allows us to even communicate.
In order to think more rationally about exercise, Mike applied these laws to bodybuilding. Indeed, one of the reasons that Mike gravitated toward the philosophy of objectivism was the philosophy's insistence on clear and unambiguous definitions. When it came to exercise, Mike saw this as an absolute boon to understanding the enterprise that bodybuilders were engaged in. Intensity, for example, had a definition of being the percentage of possible momentary muscular effort being exerted. And the subcategories of intensity had relevance to training. High-intensity, low-duration activities operated within the anaerobic pathway, the optimal one for stimulating size and strength increases. On the far right of the spectrum was low-intensity, long-duration activities. These operated within the aerobic pathway, the optimal one for stimulating endurance increases. Knowing these precise definitions provided the bodybuilder with valid knowledge of how best to direct his training efforts to bring them more in line with his training goals, and thus not waste time training his muscles in an unproductive manner. While a middle or modest intensity approach was always possible, and would fall right in the middle of the continuum, understanding the nature of the activity reveals that this would be a modest stimulus for either muscle growth or endurance, falling as it does right in the middle. Such an approach would not be optimal for one whose goal was either to stimulate maximum levels of size and strength or maximum levels of endurance.
The fundamental character of man's physiology, along with the specific nature of anaerobic metabolism, dictates what specific training causes must be enacted to affect the development of strength and muscular size beyond normal levels. Or in other words, reality and its laws, the laws of nature, determine how you must train. It has nothing to do with your wishes or whims or the intellectual vomit you read in the muscle magazines. The specific actions required must be taken by any and all who truly desire stronger and larger muscles, whether they are cognizant of such or not, whether they like it or not. Again, we have this thing called reality and its laws, the laws of nature. You will not develop a very good suntan sitting in front of a 100-watt light bulb. I don't care how much Phosphogame suntan lotion you rub into your belly button. Nature requires the presence of a high-intensity sunlight stress. While the fields of aerobic exercise and anaerobic exercise have nothing in common in practice, scientifically, intellectually, the one element they do obviously possess together is the concept intensity. As I stated above, aerobic activity is low intensity, long duration, while anaerobic bodybuilding activity is high intensity, short duration. The concept or principle of intensity, I submit, is literally the foundation or the most fundamentally important principle in all of exercise science. Again, it's not something I made up. It doesn't matter how many lugheads with 25-inch arms say I'm crazy or high intensity doesn't work. It doesn't matter how many knuckleheads would say 2 and 2 is 5, it's still 4. I don't care how big their arm is or how small their brain, 2 and 2 is 4. The concept intensity, again, is the foundation or most fundamentally important principle of exercise science, and it is only on the basis of understanding the term intensity that one may define either aerobic or anaerobic. Remember, one is low intensity, one's high intensity. This is the most important principle of all of exercise science. So do you see where this is the proper place to start to learn something truly meaningful about exercise? Very often I have phone consultation clients, a new phone consultation client, say to me, Mike, you don't have to lecture me on your training theory because I've read all your books and articles. So don't lecture me on theory. I already know that stuff. Then I ask them, okay, if you're so conversant with my ideas, the science of exercise, tell me off the top of your head, John or George or whoever it is, tell me off the top of your head what the precise definition of intensity is. And in 3 years, not a single one of those individuals who claimed to have knowledge of this could even define the most basic or fundamentally important principle of exercise science. Therefore, they don't have any slightest clue as to what they're doing. And to me, it seems almost ludicrous to be spending 1, 2, 5, 10 years of your life trying to do something without making the slightest bit of mental effort to gain the most simple knowledge.
And this is why Mike Mentzer recognized and emphasized the supreme importance of having a rational philosophy to guide one's actions, not only in the gym, but in life as well, as everything has a nature and a definition. In bodybuilding, Mike attempted to reestablish purpose in the science of exercise. That is, to discover what the correct stimulus was for building bigger, stronger muscles in the most efficient manner possible. Those who value their time, as well as knowledge, on using it more productively to achieve their goals, are tremendously attracted to Mike's work and the philosophy that informed it. Mike pointed out the bigger picture that philosophy revealed to human beings.
In order to achieve total mastery of my field of endeavor, I set about 6 years ago to gain a comprehensive understanding of philosophy, logic, and the nature of knowledge. Philosophy, by the way, means literally love of knowledge. The very concept of philosophy was first discovered by one of the greatest men in human history by the name of Plato, who lived in the age of classical Greece 23 centuries ago. Plato was the first man to understand that the human mind has a specific nature just like the body does, and that the human mind requires a specific method of thought to gain valid knowledge or true ideas. And as a sincere bodybuilder, you should want to know, people, that the ideas guiding you constitute true ideas. If not, then you're literally lacking self-esteem. You're leaving your life to chance. Plato was a teacher as well as a philosopher. His best student was an even greater man named Aristotle. In fact, Aristotle was the greatest man who ever lived, as he was literally responsible for discovering the greatest of all discoveries in human history, the laws of logic, the principles of human thought, and for those scientists, as you know, the scientific method. As you may have learned in history class somewhere along the line, the thought and teachings of Aristotle and the ancient Greeks literally established our Western civilization, the context within which it was possible for science, medicine, art, morality, and justice to flourish. Now back to the mind and the body. The mind's role in building a body, not just the muscular, physical body, but a body of knowledge as well.